Hello, in this video we'll take a look at events in ServiceNow and provide an example of how you can use them. But what is an event? There are occurrences in ServiceNow or records of occurrences in ServiceNow. They are created either by user actions or database actions or things like that. I'll note that in UI Builder, events are used with event handlers. We're not going to look at that. Also, the word event is also used in other contexts, such as with ITOM. We're not going to look at that either. What we're talking about is events over here under System Policy, Events. You see the registry, event log, script actions. We're going to look at those screens later on. What are events used for? They allow you to mark unique occurrences, and then you can also trigger actions from them. They allow for more flexibility. In our example, we'll look at how an email notice can be triggered by an event without you having to update or create a new record. So they work something like this. An event is put into a queue, and then the event triggers an action if something is set up to be triggered from it. That is done by either using a script action, which is we'll look at briefly over here on the left, or by setting on the email notification. But a prerequisite for either of those is that the name of the event must be listed in the event registry. What is that? Okay, let's look at that. Registry over here, we see a listing of many sorts of events. Let's look at those on the incident table. Many of these will come already on your instance. You can tell by the name of them, perhaps what they are associated with, like incident.updated is something that probably occurs when an incident is updated. That's what that represents. Same thing with escalated, assigned. Here's some interesting ones, more like incident.resolved by problem. Well, looking at one of these, let's look at incident.updated. You can see that it's rather a simple entry. It has a name, a table that it is associated with. We won't look at application queue or caller access in this video, but these two fields are actually just descriptive. They don't do anything. They tell you what fired the event and what it represents or does. So the registry is different from the event log. The event log lists when things in the registry are, when they run, you could say, incident.updated, for instance. We see many occurrences of that here. This is when that event was triggered, the processing time, how long it took to run, and that's interesting because they don't always run instantaneously. Some of them take a while to process if you look through here. On this screen, we don't see any long times, but you can see much longer than this that they take to run. So let's go to a practical example, which will help you understand it much better, I think. Here's a custom form, whimsical. It's about furniture, and we want to, let's say, send a thank you notice to the customer. And we could do that automatically, of course, when the state is set to something like close complete or something here. We could do that on an email notification. But let's say we want to do it, we want to have a button up here that will allow us to say, hey, send that thank you message. So let's take a look at email notifications. You go to System, Notification, Notifications. And we already have one set up. This is not about how you do this for how you actually set up a notification. This one's already set up. Just thanks them for their valuable input. And this one is set up to go to the manager, which we're not going to do. It make a lot more sense to send it to the customer. We'll do that in our example. And when to send, this is the interesting part. So you'll often see record inserted or updated, which makes a lot of sense. Triggered is when you have something set up that can be triggered by a flow. But what we want to do is set it when the event is fired. But remember, we said it had to be registered. We don't have anything that really represents what we want to do in here yet. So before we take this any further, let's get back to what we said our prerequisite was. The event had to be registered. So this will make more sense as we look at it, but let's go back to the registry. And we want to create a new entry here. Let's say, thank you, email. And we want this to run on that funny furniture form I made. We're not going to worry about these. And this is simply descriptive. This doesn't help it at all, but we'll say, well, this is going to be, we're going to trigger this by UI action. We'll talk about how you can do that. And what is it going to do? It's going to send a thank you notification. Okay. Right click and save or submit it. And there it is in the registry. Thank you.email is our event in the registry right there. Okay. So that was our prerequisite for doing anything really with them. So let's go back to our form. We want to add a button here, send thank you. Let's right click, configure, is that a UI action? Since we want to add a button here, click new. We want the button to read, let's say, send thank you. And we're not going to bother to fill out all this. Make sure it's a button. And here's what's important though. How are we going to trigger that event? This is something special you can get from the API documentation. So from the Glide System API, we have gs.eventQueue. That's what's going to make this work. We have here event name, which we already created, thank you.email. And then we have the Glide record object, which can be, we're going to be use current in this case, because it's going to run off the current form when we click the button. And then these three optional things, parameter 1, parameter 2, and a queue name that we want. You will only use one of these, and I'll show you how we can do that. So let's go back to our UI action. We're going to take that like this. There's the name of our event. It's going to operate in the current form, and we're going to use that first parameter right here, string parameter 1. And we're going to say we want to pass on the email of the customer. And another line we'll put in here because we don't want to lose our place on the screen. This just sets the redirect back to the current record so we don't lose where we are when we click on the button. So let's submit that. Here's our send thank you. Let's go back to our form. And here we see a send thank you button up here. We're going to send it to this customer. It's the U customer that we referenced. If I click send thank you, we then can go back to the event log. Remember, log logs occurrences of the events in the registry. And we see thank you email right here. And it was sent to Adam.Ringel, who is the person here. So it looks like it would work, right? Well, we haven't told that to do anything. Right now, this is just sitting in the registry, but we haven't configured the email notification to do anything with this. Let's go back to system notifications. Here's our thank you notification here. Let's open it up. And we want to set the when to send to event when the event is fired. Let's look for our thank you. And we see it right there. I don't want any other conditions. That's all I need. And let's save that. However, there's more. Remember we said that we put the name of the customer in there. And this is currently set up to go to the manager. Let's erase the manager from here. And then notice we have these settings here. Event parameter 1 contains recipient or parameter 2. Those are the optional parameters we could put in to the method, and we did put in parameter 1. That should have that address of the customer. So we're going to use that. That's what's going to get that address and send the email to this notice to them. Okay, let's save this notification. Let's go back to our form. And let's click Send Thank You again. All right, now let's go back to System Policy. We'll look at Event Log. And we see the thank you. This is the most recent occurrence of that. It went off to, it was sent to this fellow again. That's correct, but let's see if it actually did anything. And to see if it sent a notice, let's just look at the outbox on the system. System mailboxes, outbound, outbox in this particular case. And we see that yes, it created a message for Adam Ringel. Thank you for your feedback. And that's how we were able to make this work on this form without having to do anything else by using an event. So finally, to recap, events are records of occurrences. They are listed, you can list them in the registry, and then the event log logs when they occur. You can use the API to put them in the queue. And then, of course, you have to use either an email notification setting or what we didn't go over was the script action here, which is basically a list of, this is basically allows you to put in a script that can function whenever that event fires. You select your event from here if we wanted that thank you message here. We could fire something from the thank you here and script it to do whatever. So that's basically how events work. We hope that you can profit from this video and have a good day. Thank you.